Hey guys, I'm here with Juliet Mushens and we're going to do a bit of a live Ask Agent. Juliet's been my literary agent. In fact, I was her very first client.
Yeah, you were 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, since 2010, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna shoot 2 videos with Juliet. One asking some of the questions that you guys put forward on Twitter, and then some more fun ones, just so that you can get to know us both a bit better.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm a young and aspiring author and I come across you on Twitter or YouTube. What should I know about you before I submit?
Probably that I'm the best agent out there, for one. But seriously, apart from that, you should probably look up my list. See who my existing clients are, see the kind of things I represent, maybe go on the bookseller website, see the kind of deals I've done recently, see if you can find me recent interviews with me where you find out what I'm looking for, and then, most importantly, go on my website, check out my submission guidelines, and make sure you follow them.
Yeah, that's really important. I think even just that little step will set you apart from a lot of what you...
Hugely. I get a lot of submissions, and ones that actually follow the guidelines definitely are more likely to get noticed than those that don't.
Cool. So how many submissions do you and Sarah tend to get a month?
Around 600 submissions a month come through,
No.
which is a lot, yes. Yes.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It is a lot, which is why sometimes it can take a while for me to get back to you. But I do respond to every submission I receive. But yes, around 600 a month.
Holy crap, I don't think I even realised that.
It's got a lot more. It's got a lot more. That was one of the things I realised, is that when I started as an agent, I'd get like 10 queries a week.
Yeah.
So I'd be so smug that I'd respond within a day. And then it slowly crept up. And last year it was about kind of 200, and now it's about 600 a month.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Okay, so you've submitted your query. So we've got a couple of questions that are about sort of do's and don'ts when you're submitting. So if your book is part of a series, should you mention this?
Yes, do mention if your book is part of a series, but don't over-egg it. For example, I'd be a bit worried if you said it was part of a 14-book series or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I think have some common sense, and it just needs to be aligned. You know, this is the first in a planned trilogy, this is the first in a planned duology, and I've plotted out the next one or next 2 books. That's useful information for me to know, but remember to make the book you're sending me the focus of your cover letter, not your possible future books.
And do you have a maximum word count over which you won't even look at a submission?
No, technically I don't. Please don't test that though, I have to say. The longest word count of a book I've sold was 150,000 words, which is a book called The Copper Promise by Jen Williams, which was epic fantasy. In epic fantasy you have a bit more leeway in word count, but I would say that over 150,000 words, it's pace that really tends to disappear. So I'd be worried if, you know, it was 180,000 words. I've had 500,000 word long submissions before, and everyone always says to me, oh, but what about War and Peace? That was 500,000 words long. Your book is not War and Peace.
Good point, yeah. Okay, if you've queried but you've made changes after your kind of chapter submissions, should they resubmit?
Okay. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
People email me constantly.
To be honest, I do that to Juliet sometimes. I'll submit my final manuscript, be like, no, ignore that one, new manuscript.
Authors do it constantly, and often I have to be like, guys, is this the actual final one? Should I open this one and read it, or should I just forget about it? But no, in all seriousness, people a lot of the time will email me and say, I've changed this, I've tweaked this, here's a new submission. One, it means you'll probably lose your place in my queue. So I read things in date order normally of when they hit my inbox. And if you've made radical changes, then I would resubmit. But I'd also question why you sent me your manuscript if you were planning on making radical changes. I would say the sensible thing to do is, if they're small changes, leave it as it is. And if you don't think that your book is edited well enough, then don't submit it. Give yourself a break, do another draft, and then submit it to agents with something you're polished and happy with.
Very good advice.
I try.
You try. So is it ever appropriate to nudge you if they haven't heard from you? This query says if they haven't heard after 12 weeks.
Okay, then yes, it is appropriate to nudge me after that time. Most agents, not all, but most agents will tell you, 1, if they do reply to all submissions, and 2, what their timescale is. And I say I always reply within 8 to 12 weeks. So if it's 12 weeks have passed, do send me a polite nudge. But sometimes I fall behind. I'm only human. I get 600 a month, And at the moment I'm exceptionally busy because it was Frankfurt Book Fair in October, so a couple of weeks ago. Gosh, it feels ages ago and very recent at the same time. So there's a lot of follow-up I have to do with foreign publishers, and it means I get a bit behind. But a polite chaser is absolutely fine, but please don't call my office.
If I've queried you in the past and you've turned me down, is it appropriate for me to re-query with another book?
Yes, absolutely. It really, really is. And I have signed people in the past who I turned down for previous books. So the first book I sold this year was a book called The Bones of You, which was a big 6-figure auction in the UK, sold in America, Japan, lots of other places. And the author had submitted 2 books to me before, which I had passed on. And then she submitted this one to me. I read it genuinely overnight, offered representation, as did 2 other agents. It was the right book. She'd learnt from everything she'd written before, and she'd taken it on board. So I would say absolutely don't worry if I've rejected a book before. I'm not rejecting you, I'm rejecting that particular book.
I think that's a really good thing to remember, because a lot of people think, that then you're kind of, that they can't learn from the experience, but your first book is not always the one, as they say.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And so many authors talk about this as well, that they have 10 novels shoved away in a drawer, that authors might get signed by me for a book, but in the past they've written 5 books before, which no one was interested in. And sometimes I take people on for a book, I can't sell it, but then I can sell the next book they write. So don't give up, it's a learning curve, I would say.
Do you have a dream submission?
Yes, I do. I'm very specific in particular things I like, but equally often the thing I sign is nothing that I said I would want to sign at all. But I've been saying for ages I would really like to sign a serial killer thriller. Really, yeah, exactly. Go away and write that for me, please. Okay. I would love to represent kind of a female police officer investigating, race against time, serial killer, weird ritualistic murders, that kind of thing. I'm also a sucker for ghost stories, and I would love a kind of Victorian haunted house ghost story.
Yeah, that would be epic.
That would be really
I would read both of those.
Exactly, you would. But the thing to say is though, don't think to yourself, oh, but my book isn't those, because I've been looking for those for since I became an agent, and I haven't found them yet, but I've signed lots of other things in the meantime.
Does anything in life compare to telling a debut author that their book is about to be published? What else in your life could compare to that moment?
I know. That makes me sound like a massive loser if I'm nothing else compares. The rest of my life is empty and meaningless. No, it's actually an amazing moment. It's an amazing moment, making that phone call and letting them know they've had a book deal. And I can actually, I think, remember where I was with every single one of the books I have sold. Yeah, they really stick in your mind. Yeah. And then when you call the author, it's just amazing.
I remember when you called me about the Random House deal for the Oathbreaker's Shadow. I was actually back in my hometown in Canada, in Ottawa, and with my family, which just ended up being the perfect moment, because I got to be, with people who had seen my kind of whole journey, and got to celebrate with all my family, which was just the kind of perfect. It was serendipitous. In fact, I tend to be on holiday when you call me. Great news. Yeah, so I think maybe the solution is to go on permanent holiday.
Yeah, and I'm definitely cool with brilliant.
Yeah, but also, I mean, as a now no longer debut author, calling about the second book deal, that was every time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things to say actually as well, is that the debut author deal is amazing, but sometimes the next deal can be even more amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got the offer through from Simon & Schuster for the Potion Diaries, and they sent round a potion for a best-selling book spell with a scroll in, and I was just pacing around the office reading this aloud to my assistant, and I felt incredibly emotional seeing this level of enthusiasm from a publisher. It's an amazing moment.
Yeah, I'd been down in Brighton and I kind of rushed up to Juliet's office, and it was just
it was really nice.
Moment.
It was the end of the day on a Friday, and we had champagne and cupcakes in my office, and we had a work experience in the time who said my office was the most glamorous place she'd ever been.
Always champagne and cupcakes.
Always champagne and cupcakes. It's very rarely champagne and cupcakes, but I was glad we preserved the illusion for Harriet.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, just a couple more. What single question should a new or aspiring author be ready to answer about their work?
That's a really good question.
I think that's interesting too.
That is interesting. I would say they should be prepared to answer what kind of author they want to be. So where do they see their book on the shelves? Like, where do they see it? You know, what authors do they think it compares to? How would they picture it? And also what they want to write next. That's something I always ask people when I offer representation is, where are you going to go next? What are you planning on writing? And I think the final thing is, are you prepared to edit it? And I think it's really important, if you do get that offer of representation, to find out in advance what edits the agent thinks you need, because sometimes your visions don't mesh. What the agent wants from the book is not what you want from the book, and it's important to establish that you're on the same page before you start a working relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Juliet's a brilliant agent and quite editorial, but it's important to know that sometimes, you know, you've got to hold out for the right agent as well for your book. You've got to make sure that you don't just kind of jump on the first thing that comes along.
I think that's very true.
And it's the same actually with publishers as well. When you get to that stage, you have to make sure that you're working with a publisher. It's a long-term relationship. Often, if you sign up for a trilogy, you know, you're working with that publisher for 3 years. With an agent, it could be, you know, a lifelong relationship, really long relationship. So you've got to make sure that your visions are aligned, as Juliet said.
Definitely.
Okay, and then final question, is it essential that a book sits squarely within a particular genre, especially in YA, to be publishable?
Okay, I don't think that it's incredibly important. I do quite a lot of cross-genre stuff, so James Oswald is one of my writers, big Sunday Times bestseller, and he writes supernatural crime thrillers, and I do like cross-genre works, but I think you do need an awareness of your market and an awareness of how your book will be pitched. What other books will people who buy your book be buying? What kind of cover could be put on it? Who are the people who will be picking up and reading it? Go and have a walk around your bookshop, see where books are stocked, look on Amazon, see how they're listed as well, and have a sense. I mean, there are obviously books which transcend all genre and are really difficult to describe, but they are the exceptions rather than the rule.
If it's young adult, you sort of need to know which end of the market you're going for, because I suppose there are levels of...
I think absolutely. I'm currently writing a book called How to Write a YA Novel, and I talk quite a lot about the age range in there, because I get a lot of submissions of YA novels that aren't YA novels at all, and I think it's really important to read as widely as you can in the genre you're trying to write in, and also think about, are the ideas I'm writing about appropriate for my intended audience, and will they find them interesting? Because often the concerns of adults are not necessarily the concerns of a teen audience.
Well, great. Thank you so much for chatting with me on my YouTube channel. And do you have anything else, any last words? Famous last words?
Famous last words. I guess keep trying. You know, no artist sits down at a canvas for the first time and paints a masterpiece. Keep working, learn from everything you write, and don't give up.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.